Now listen, as they are mad at me, and they are only about to get a lot more mad as I uncover and expose the scheme that Drake has been using to scam all his fans. Well, before we go any further, make sure to leave a like so everybody can see this no matter what, and see how Drake has now affected his fans in one of the most shameful ways that a grifter ever can. And so just get ready and say it with me. Now when it comes to Drake! And now if you are ready to see how Cupcake Drake is in trouble, and it's all around another viral clip that is exposing the Drake fan experience in 2025, and it's showing how bad that really is. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, because now really, as the more every day is passing, we are just finding out that Drake is not the guy that he has tried to put himself in the public, and even the fans that he has tried so hard to desperately hold on to, and that will defend him to everybody because they don't want to look embarrassed at this point for sticking with Drake. Well, even with all of that, they are having an awful time in the OVO community, and it's only a matter of time till this whole thing falls apart. Well, listen, make sure to leave a like because we are really going to need it, as today with Drake, we have another moment that is showing off the terribleness of the Drake experience. And what we are going to be looking at here, well, are moments that are coming out from something that Drake put together and did that, well, has deceived a portion of his fan base and made them travel and get tickets to something where they were given an experience that they did not even expect and that they thought was going to be quite the opposite. And specifically what I am talking about, well, went down at the end of October with Drake and the shows that he put together and organized with OVO for none other than Vybz Kartel's first shows that ever went down in Toronto, and that were a part of the welcome home run of shows that Vybz has been doing in general. And this is where things started. Before we go into how Drake fans are saying that they got scammed right now, let's just be aware of the way this concert was framed and referenced, which I will give the Drake fans a little credit here, even though they are Drake fans, just in terms of the grand schemes of concerts, touring, and lineup presentation. This was very misleading, and I mean very misleading. And the reason why I say that is now that when Drake announced these performances, if you looked at the flyer and you looked at the way Drake was framing it, well, Drake's name was all over the branding. It was all next to Vybz Kartel's name, and the way Drake was talking, and even with the shows falling right in the Cupcake's birthday weekend and being all over around that, so it seemed like a birthday celebration for him. For a lot of reasons, especially because Drake has not performed within Toronto in full for years at this point, it really did seem like Drake was going to be doing some sort of a full concert or have a large presence here, which now let's break it down where things get especially troubling. Which now on the first night when Vybz Kartel came, Drake was all over the place. He was trying to look cool. He was doing speeches on stage, running around the arena, did a little DJ set where he did remixes of some of his biggest R&B songs and pop songs and anything that's not a rap song. And you know, he did all that and DJ'd, so I guess you can say that you did get some sort of a Drake performance if you went on night one. But with night 2 and night 3, Drake was not even there, which once again, when you see the branding, see how OVO was all over everything, see how Drake was all over everything, and see how he wasn't even in the building for 2 of the nights, this is where things get bad, and this is where you could start to say that the Six God turned into the Scam God. As now what has started to go viral, and I always find it so funny because for these Drake fans who go to these OVO mandated events, it always seems like they are the ones who end up creating and perpetuating the narratives that we end up finding out that are all just around the truth of how bad the Drake experience is. Well, now after posting everything from water bottles being thrown on Drake at stage, to Drake not knowing the lyrics, to Drake getting garbage thrown on stage at him during his last tour with the Some Awful Shows for You tour, the Some Special Shows for You tour, whatever it was called, and we all knew it was terrible. Well, the magic has continued now, as what we have now seen is how Drake pretty much misled fans to go into this arena, expect a Drake concert, and only see Vybz Kartel, which here is a video which is going viral right now. And you can just see the fans who came to see Drake and have absolutely no idea where they are And I mean, look at the one guy yawning. You could just see how bad of a time they were having as they expected to see Drake and they got a Vibes Cartel concert, which I mean, I think most people would be happy with. But if you are a Drake fan, well, it's easy to make some jokes and say, they're Drake fans, this is what they get, or say something along those lines. What I will say is that as a concert goer in 2025, in an era, in a business, and in an event as a whole that has just become more confusing, convoluted, and just strange a lot of the time, I do almost feel bad for these people because they definitely thought that Drake was going to be performing, and based on the branding and the way that Drake was pushing and promoting the show, you really can't blame them, and they just ended up getting something that they didn't plan or actually give up their hard-earned resources for, I guess you could say. And so just looking at that from this perspective, and as somebody who genuinely has a lot of sympathy for concert goers, because honestly, the touring game these days is awful overall. Again, I'm not gonna lie, guys, I'm conflicted because on one hand, while Drake is such an awful performer, even going to see him and giving up your hard-earned resources to try and watch the Cupcake Karen, it's genuinely such a bad live experience as the karaoke man just makes you do all the work that I don't even feel bad almost in a way if you wanted to go see him. Because at that point, you might as well just go in the mirror, play Marvin's Room, and sing it to yourself. But at the same time, if I am being objective, to just see this happen, and really it's all based on the way that Drake's promoting, just kind of created deception around this whole event and created people and made people do something that they weren't really aware of the full thing they were getting into. This is just whack, and especially when Drake was hyping up that he was going to be there at the very least, and he didn't even show up on night 2 or night 3, which I don't know which night this is from, but I'd imagine it's from one of those, because if Drake was there, if he was either behind them based on where they were sitting in the DJ booth or across from them, they'd probably be a lot more excited. Well, again, overall, this whole thing is just so weird, and I genuinely don't know who to feel bad for, but what I will say and what I will stand on 110% is that for Drake, and let's be real. Listen, he scammed his fans and he wanted this exact result to come because at the end of the day, Drake did not care who showed up. He just wanted to fill up this venue, get some numbers up because he clearly had a stake in this with OVO Sound and everything as they were the ones putting the show together. And whether he had to bait his name to do that or not, well, it worked and it made sure that every single seat in this venue was filled up, whether it was because of a false idea that Drake was going to be performing there or not. And just with that, here is where things are going to get a little weirder, which let's just break this down and let's just understand where Drake is coming from, because honestly, with this show, this was a willing full scam on his end, where again, he knew the misleading message he was sending and put it out there because he wanted to get something very clear out of this, and he really did not care about the consequences, which specifically now what I mean by that is one of the things I have realized more and more with every single decision Drake has made for maybe the last 5 or 6 years definitively as a whole, and we saw it most recently in full with something like the SSS For You album, which just went platinum, and Drake is trying to brag about that, which, like, who cares, bro? You're like the only guy updating your certifications on any level, so it really is not the deal that you were trying to hype it up to be, but at the same time as I say that, it is a platinum album, and what is very interesting about the way Drake went about this entire record, and even what he did for this entire show, is that from stuff like this to other things we have seen, like the joint tours, or even the joint albums, like Her Loss with 21 Savage, or even something as random, scattered, and aimless as Honestly Nevermind, or you know what, we could take it back, Dark Lane demo tapes, and you could extend this even more, but let's just keep it around all this for now, is that overall, when it comes to just the failure of Drake to really uphold what his name always meant and to deliver experiences that, let's just say, compared to other members near and around the Big Three or some of the other best acts in touring, whether that's Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole in terms of the Big Three stuff, or let's say Tyler, the Creator, or Travis Scott in terms of the touring stuff. Well, what makes Drake very different from those guys, and even with a show like this, which at the end of the day, if his name was on the bill, he was promoting it, And we know Drake has some sort of an insane deal with Live Nation where he pretty much always has to do shows. We can assume that this was another part of his obligation, and it's just another way to expand and continue to keep doing stuff for OVO, no matter how much he wants to stop and no matter how bad he is at all of it. Well, with Drake doing a show like this and with him using his name to push tickets, yet he wasn't doing much, we can just see something which is the same reason why Drake has made 2 of his last 3 albums collab projects, which is just now with Drake. He is stuck within these deals where he has been forced to make pretty much anything that he possibly can or do any show that he possibly could put together. And well, because of what he wanted and now the consequences he is facing from the labels and the touring companies, no matter how he wants to face it, and no matter the fact that he agreed to all of this, well, what he is doing, just like we are seeing with the music and what we are seeing with this show, is something very basic, which is just off of this logic. If I have to release an album, let's say every 6 months or every year or whenever they tell me to, and let's say that I have to do some sort of a show in some sort of places, I don't know, it seems like right now, every quarter of the year at the very least, I have to put together some sort of a concert series. Well, if I'm Drake and I am going to do that, what's the easiest way to make this all up and the easiest way to just divide the work? Well, to split it up in half. And so from the 21 Savage album to the Party Next Door album to these Vibes Cartel concerts, which again, they were his shows, although Drake was all over the promotion and it was being pushed as a Drake show, even on all of the ticketing platforms. Well, overall, you see the game and the grift that Drake is trying to run right now, which is just that he has been squeezed so tight and he has put himself in a position where he is now being asked so much, yet he has absolutely nothing in the tank because he pretty much tried to just create a fast food conveyor belt full of art and he realized he can't take that anymore. Well, now on one hand, he is trying to use all these other people to just deceive his fans and deceive his entire persona and brand, and I guess even the partners, all to believe that he's making more experiences with OVO and that he's trying to build everything he has done, when meanwhile he is using a Vibes Cartel or a Party Next Door or anybody else that we have seen him kind of pair up with for the most part, just to divide up the work he is doing and make his job easier while he can coast and be lazier. And just with Drake doing that, I do think that speaks so much volume to just the type of work ethic he has been putting into everything recently and the type of person he has been for so long in this industry, which again, if you ask me, has prioritized every single superficial thing over the actual merit, quality, and experience of his work. And just with Drake being a glorified con man at this point, who is just running around doing whatever he can to get a conversion and to get somebody to actually do something. And then again, it's leading to moments like this, where fans went to a Drake concert, they were in a completely different show, and they're sitting there absolutely baffled, they're yawning, and they got no idea what's going on. I just gotta tell you this, and you may get mad at me, but really one day you will probably thank me later, which is that now for Drake, the guy's not taking care of you whatsoever. But I'm not gonna make another album pun, because really nothing is gonna be the same after this, but I'm seriously gonna stop. But listen, if you like Drake, you will thank me later for this, and the reason why I'm saying that is because he is not in it for you, he is not in it for his fan base, and he is not even in it for the people he works with. And you know who Drake is in everything for? Well, it's for himself, and to just try and cut the most corners that he possibly can, while still upholding to the awful terms that he put himself in when he made the deals that he made, which of course he bragged about so much because he loved getting those 400 M's, but literally now he has no artistic freedom, and as a career overall, he is just trapped, and he can't really move, and he can't really do anything other than just stay in the limelight and continue to tour and continue to do the most embarrassing and cringe things that we have ever seen, which when it comes to Drake doing so many shows, we do know that this Live Nation deal has been a real thing that he signed, and well, that has put him in the position where pretty much when they tell him, Drake, you gotta go to Australia, or Drake, you gotta go to Europe, or Drake, you gotta go to any of these places which you dodged for so long and that you didn't want to be at, well, now that the guy has no leverage, he pretty much has to, and he is now working one of the most awful jobs that you possibly could, especially for how privileged and pampered he has tried to make himself sound for so long. And so listen, with Drake and the gimmick tours and the gimmick moves and the moves that are just splitting up the work that he has to do with other people to try and game the system and get out of the awful deals that he put himself in, even though his fans are getting scammed and people are starting to realize it and people are starting to see how awful the Drake experience is, I got news for you. It's not going to stop, and Drake is going to continue to do this until he can't anymore. Because right now, with how bad of a place his career is in and with how bad of a place he has put it in himself, he's going to have to rely on these gimmicks and tricks a lot more, and he is only going to have to scam his fan base further if he is ever going to be able to just do anything on his own accord and not off of the cringe antics and just the scam antics that he has been doing now. And so just with that, and just with this whole moment where we are seeing Drake just spiral out and do whatever garbage slop he can to try and just get a moment or get ahead for a little while on his own fans. And you know what's funny to me is that right before this went viral, a message went viral which turned out to be fake, but it was showing a thread back and forth with Drake pretty much encouraging a fan on what to do after quitting their job. And you know, even with these messages from Drake, which were totally fake but were hilarious, I mean, just take a look at them and they do sound like he said this. I mean, honestly, the comments here and the way he is like fake caring and fake showing empathy for this person in the message thread, it feels like the same thing we are seeing with what he is doing to his fan base in general. But no matter what, you just can't justify this and try to say it's right. And if you have, you are the reason why Drake is going to continue to scam and probably continue to benefit from that more than he will anything else that is actually relying on the quality and integrity of his word, because clearly those are all gone. But you know what? If Drake really does have to rely on just these gimmicky tricks to try and move anything, do anything, or make the awful load of stuff that he has created for himself just get lighter in terms of all these experiences and performances that he has had to give, well, Drake really did make the sandwich here, and he's really just got to deal with the consequences of this. But you know what? As we were talking about earlier, if we should feel bad for the Drake fans who really did come out to this show expected to see Drake and were just absolutely lost, well, you know what I gotta say? If you are really going to stand by Drake with this, try to defend him and try to flip this however you can, and maybe even support the whole idea that Drake is giving you a bad experience and therefore a bad product by saying that he's standing up to the industry or sabotaging them. Well, you are so far gone that we can't even have this conversation anymore. But just understand that, again, if you were at a Drake show and you were looking like this, if you're not going to stop the cupcake now and you're going to continue to just let him make more and more of this absolute garbage, well, then you are really the reason why the greatest downfall in the history of music is happening right before our own eyes, and why right now, somehow, even after the point we are at, it's only going to get so much worse. And so yeah, that's all I got today. Let me know your thoughts on the Iceman turning into the Scam Man and just him doing this to his fans and letting them have this type of experience at an OVO event where he kind of promised he was going to be there, and then he kind of went all liar mode and just didn't end up delivering what he said. And now if you made it to this point in the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. I really can't thank you enough, and I just want to say, I hope you have a great day, and I hope you really have a great rest of your week. And listen, if you want to stick around me for a little longer, listen, you got to check out yesterday's video. It is one of the funniest videos of all time, because if you want to see Drake just crash out, get kicked out of the club, and look like an absolute joke, well, you really got to check this one out. So check out this suggested video, because I don't think we've ever seen a worse moment from Drake ever.